In 2006, Dubai promised an airport that would eclipse every rival, 260 million passengers per year, 5 runways, and a city for 1 million people, all for $35 billion. Today, Al Maktoum International stands almost empty, handling less than 500,000 travelers in a terminal built for 26 million, while DXU breaks records beyond its design limits. This was supposed to be the future, but instead became the world's most expensive ghost airport, a monument to building tomorrow's airport yesterday. With another $35 billion now pledged and global airlines watching, is Dubai doubling down on a stroke of genius or committing to the most against all logic airport gamble ever attempted? The true stakes and the contradictions are just beginning. On September 16, 2006, Sheikh Ahmad bin Saeed Al Maktoum stood before the world and declared Dubai's most audacious gamble yet, a new airport city carved from desert with a projected cost of 120 billion dirhams. The promise was staggering: 260 million passengers per year, 5 runways, 400 gates, and a city designed to house 1 million residents. Consultants from Ecom and Atkins, backed by local demand modeling, forecasted a 6% annual surge in Gulf air traffic. The blueprints called for an aerotropolis on a scale never seen before, one that would eclipse Atlanta, Beijing, and even Dubai's own record-breaking DXB. Construction moved at a pace that matched the ambition. Just 14 months after the announcement, on November 5, 2007, the first runway, runway 1230, was completed. At 4,500 meters long and 60 meters wide, it could handle the world's largest aircraft, including the Airbus A380. The Dutch firm Maktoum International delivered the project under a $1.2 billion contract, meeting Cat 3C standards for all weather operations. Dubai's leaders didn't just want an airport, they wanted a statement of intent. Cargo came first. On June 20, 2010, Emirates Sky Cargo Flight EK9883 touched down from Hong Kong, inaugurating DWC's freight operations. The airport's cargo gateway was designed for 12 million tons annually, more than double the entire throughput of Heathrow and Frankfurt combined. By 2015, DWC had handled over 1 million tons, a fraction of the target, but still a sign of life in a project that was supposed to rewrite the rules of global logistics. The next milestone arrived on October 27, 2013, when the passenger terminal opened its doors. With 64 remote stands, retail outlets, and food courts, the facility was built to process 7 million travelers per year at launch, later upgraded to handle 12 million. The first quarter saw just over 100,000 passengers, but officials spoke of a future where these halls would buzz with the movement of tens of millions. Dubai airports hailed it as the opening act for the world's next great hub. For a brief moment, it looked like Dubai's visionaries had bent time to their will. In less than a decade, a patch of desert had become a sprawling air gateway, its infrastructure gleaming and ready. The numbers, runway length, cargo tonnage, terminal capacity spoke to a city-state convinced that if you build the future, the world will come. Dubai International Airport, or DXB, stands as both a marvel and a warning. It was built for 80 million travelers a year. In the last financial year, it handled 92 million, 12 million more than its intended maximum. The terminal halls are crowded, the baggage belts run non-stop, and every available slot on its 2 runways is squeezed for efficiency. Airlines queue for takeoff and landing, but there is no room left to grow. The airport is boxed in by highways, neighborhoods, and the city's relentless expansion. There is simply no land for a third runway, no space for another terminal, and no real way to stretch the limits any further. Paul Griffiths, CEO of Dubai Airports, put it bluntly in the 2023 annual report. Without a second mega hub, DXB will hit a hard ceiling within 5 years. He has argued that even the most aggressive optimization, faster security, tighter schedules, can only push the numbers so far. Beyond 100 or 110 million passengers, the system starts to break down. Griffiths warned, "We cannot defy the laws of physics. At some point, the only solution is to move." The numbers support his urgency. DXB's 92 million passengers in the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 made it the world's busiest international airport for the 10th year running. But the infrastructure is stretched to its breaking point. Airlines are forced to operate at odd hours just to secure a slot. Delays ripple outward across continents. The airport's two-runway design, once cutting edge, now looks like a bottleneck. Every expansion proposal runs up against the same hard fact. The city has grown up around DXB, turning it into an island of concrete with nowhere left to expand. The contrast with DWC is stark and troubling. While the new airport sits 40 kilometers away, the only way to reach it is by road. There is no metro line, no high-speed rail, and no direct public transit. For a city that prides itself on seamless connections, this is a glaring omission. A 2022 passenger survey found that 2/3 of travelers would still choose DXB over DWC, citing the lack of rail access and the extra travel time. Business flyers, in particular, see the 45-minute trek to DWC as a deal-breaker. All the while, DXB keeps breaking its own records, running well past the limits its designers imagined. The city's aviation ambitions are now boxed in by geography, infrastructure, and the simple math of capacity. As the pressure mounts, the need for a new hub looks less like a choice and more like an inevitability. But as Dubai's appetite for mega projects collided with financial reality, the next chapter would not be written by ambition alone. By late 2008, Dubai's momentum collided with a global financial storm. Real estate values across the emirate plunged by more than 60%, erasing billions in paper wealth almost overnight. The city's flagship developer, Dubai World, was suddenly staring down a mountain of debt, $59 billion, nearly 3/4 of the government's total obligations. On November 25, 2009, Dubai World stunned markets by announcing a $26 billion standstill on its bond repayments. The news sent shockwaves through global finance, with credit default swap spreads spiking and Dubai's debt to GDP ratio soaring toward 136%. The impact was immediate and severe. Construction sites across the city fell silent. Projects that had seemed unstoppable just months earlier were frozen in place. Al Maktoum International Airport, still in its infancy, was swept into the crisis. The $3 billion senior loan earmarked for its next phase sat undrawn, as lenders imposed tough new covenants and withheld further disbursements. Contractors reported payment delays, with some, like Arab Tech, filing arbitration claims that would drag on for years. Desperation forced Dubai to look north. On December 14, 2009, Abu Dhabi stepped in with a $10 billion bailout, enough to cover immediate obligations, but not to restart the mega project engine. The terms came with strings attached: stricter fiscal discipline, oversight from federal authorities, and a freeze on new sovereign guarantees. For DWC, this meant a hard stop. The airport's expansion was put on indefinite hold, its future tethered to the slow, grinding process of debt restructuring and capital reallocation. By 2011, the city's appetite for risk had evaporated. Dubai airports redirected what cash flow remained to shoring up DXB, not to building out a second hub. The dream of a 260 million passenger aerotropolis faded behind the reality of frozen loans, missed contractor payments, and a global credit market that no longer believed in limitless growth. The world's most expensive ghost airport, built on the promise of tomorrow, now stood as a monument to the dangers of building tomorrow's airport yesterday. In 2014, Dubai unveiled a new expansion blueprint for Al Maktoum International. $36 billion earmarked for a third runway, a second passenger terminal, and a logistics city sprawling beyond the horizon. The plan called for a phased build-out, with 70% of funding to come from sovereign loans and the rest split between private partners and Emirates Group equity. The message to the world was clear. DWC would not just rival, but dwarf every other airport on the planet. But behind the press releases, cracks began to show. FlyDubai was the first major airline to publicly commit, pledging in 2016 to move its main hub to DWC by the following year. The promise included shifting about 30% of its flights, lured by the prospect of lower slot costs and room to grow. Yet by mid-2017, only a handful of cargo and charter operations had made the jump. FlyDubai quietly walked back its commitment, blaming construction delays and the lack of a metro connection. The grand migration had become a partial move, with most passengers and flights staying put at DXB. Meanwhile, the budget ballooned. A 2018 redesign of the second terminal, triggered by a pilot operability study, added over 200 million euros to costs and pushed the opening date from 2020 to at least 2023. Contractors like BAM and Arabtech reported payment delays and invoicing disputes, with some works halted pending audits and safety reviews. Each delay rippled through the project, eroding confidence among airlines and investors alike. By late 2019, the momentum had ground to a halt. Bloomberg reported that DWC's expansion was officially on hold, with the Dubai government commissioning a third-party audit to reassess feasibility. The undrawn senior loan facility, once seen as a financial backstop, was frozen after loan covenants were breached. Even Emirates, the linchpin for any future hub, hesitated. President Tim Clark summed up the mood. The move is on hold, but inevitable. The world's most expensive ghost airport, built to serve more passengers than any city on Earth, now stood in limbo. The vision of building tomorrow's airport yesterday had collided with the reality of missed deadlines, budget overruns, and a growing sense that the future might never arrive. Rows of wide-body jets stood motionless under the desert sun, their engines wrapped and windows taped, as if waiting for a future that never quite arrived. In 2021, Al Maktoum International became something few could have imagined, a parking lot for the world's most advanced aircraft. At the pandemic's peak, 117 Emirates A380s and Boeing 707s were stored here, grounded by a global collapse in travel. The main terminal, designed for up to 26 million passengers, saw just 461,000 pass through in 2021, a number so small it barely registers against the airport's cavernous scale. Passenger traffic did not rebound. In 2022, the count edged up to 877,000, still less than a single busy week at Dubai International. By 2023, the total fell again, dipping under 500,000. The terminal's check-in counters sat empty for hours at a time. Security lanes, built to process thousands per hour, saw only a trickle. Airlines that once announced grand plans for new routes quietly let their slots expire, leaving the airport's schedule a patchwork of cargo flights, a handful of low-cost carriers, and seasonal charters. Cargo kept the lights on. Nearly 1 million tons moved through DWC in 2023, but this was a fraction of the 12 million annual tons once promised. The airport's vast aprons and taxiways, built for the world's busiest hub, became a backdrop for silence. Slot utilization rarely broke 30%, even at peak hours. The world's most expensive ghost airport, $35 billion spent and counting, stood as a monument to building tomorrow's airport yesterday. The emptiness posed a question that hung over Dubai's future. Was this the inevitable low point before a new surge, or the clearest warning yet that the future does not always arrive on schedule? Relocating Emirates, The airline at the heart of Dubai's aviation ambitions is a challenge on a scale few cities have ever faced. With a fleet of 270 aircraft, more than 100 of them double-decker A380s, Emirates alone accounts for 2/3 of all passenger traffic at DXB. In the 2022 to 2023 financial year, the airline posted a net profit of $8 billion, a figure that underpins not just Dubai's airport operations, but much of the city's global reputation. Moving this operation from DXB to DWC isn't a matter of shifting a few flights. Internal estimates put the full relocation cost at $10 to $12 billion. That covers everything from building new crew bases and maintenance hangars, to replicating Emirates' signature lounges, to reworking IT systems and ground handling infrastructure for a new hub. The numbers are daunting. Housing and supporting 22,000 staff, constructing facilities for 400 gates, and ensuring seamless connections for the airline's 3,600 weekly flights. Tim Clark, Emirates president, has never sugarcoated the risk. In 2021, he described the move as on hold, but inevitable. For Emirates, the question isn't whether to move, but when, and how to do it without breaking the very system that has made Dubai the world's most connected city. The stakes are clear. A successful migration could secure Dubai's hub status for decades. A misstep could turn the world's most expensive ghost airport into a cautionary tale for the entire industry. The Gulf region is no longer Dubai's private runway. Across the border, Saudi Arabia is pouring $30 billion into King Salman International Airport outside Riyadh, an airport designed for 120 million passengers by 2030, with an eye on 200 million by 2040. The Saudi government's ambition is open. Draw away Gulf transit traffic that once defaulted to Dubai. In 2023, Riyadh's air traffic grew by 4.5%, while the first phase of KSIA's cargo hub already started pulling flights that might have landed in the UAE. To the west, Qatar's Hamad International has just finished a $10 billion expansion. Phase 2 added 10 million to its annual capacity, pushing the total to about 50 million, and giving Qatar Airways a springboard for a 30% jump in hub throughput by 2026. Every new concourse and luxury lounge in Doha is a direct challenge to Dubai's dominance on the Europe to Asia corridor. Abu Dhabi is not sitting idle either. Zayed International's new Terminal A, opened in 2024, brings another 30 million seats to the table and targets premium passengers who once swore by DXB. Each of these projects chips away at Dubai's traditional catchment. Internal Dubai memos cite a 3% drop in Qatar to Dubai passenger share after HIA's expansion and a steady leak of Riyadh traffic. The message is clear. Without decisive action, Dubai's hub status risks being outflanked by neighbors who are spending and building just as boldly. On April 28, 2024, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum stood before the press and pledged to finish what Dubai started. The city approved a new AED $128 billion expansion, another $35 billion gamble, aimed at transforming Al Maktoum International from the world's most expensive ghost airport into the future of global aviation. Phase 1 alone targets a staggering 150 million passengers by 2032 or 2034, with plans for a second runway, 300 gates, and a logistics city sprawling across the desert. The full ecosystem cost, including airline relocation and supporting infrastructure, is expected to top $50 billion. The vision is uncompromising. Close DXB entirely, and shift every flight, every crew base, every passenger to DWC. Sheikh Mohammed called it a city of the future, promising unmatched capacity, 5 runways, and a new urban center for 1 million residents. But for all the ambition, the memory of past missteps lingers. The official timeline has slipped again and again, from 2017 to 2020 to 2027, and now into the 2030s. The region's rivals are not waiting. Riyadh, Doha, and Abu Dhabi are pouring billions into their own hubs, each vying to outbuild and outcompete Dubai's original promise. There is a warning in the history books. Montreal's Mirabel Airport, once designed for 50 million travelers, never saw more than 5.2 million at its peak. Decades after opening, its passenger terminal was demolished, a monument to grand plans that outpaced reality. Dubai's new master plan tries to avoid the same fate by phasing growth and banking on a future surge. But the risk remains. Is this renewed push a stroke of genius, staking everything on tomorrow's demand, or the boldest act of wishful thinking in aviation history? The answer may not come until the runways are built, the flights arrive, and the world decides whether to follow Dubai into the desert once more. Today, Dubai faces a crossroads. Invest another $35 billion to shift from an overcapacity DXB to a near-empty DWC, or risk cementing the world's most expensive ghost airport. With rivals rising and airport traffic surging past 92 million at DXB, the gamble is real. Building tomorrow's airport yesterday leaves one question: can vision outpace reality, or does it just rewrite the cost of ambition? What's your verdict? Let's discuss below.